Nervous at all?
Yeah.
Are you?
I'm scared people will be mean.
Oh, they better not be. Okay. Oh, we live, Mac.
We live.
Well, here's where sometimes it'll go, welcome to TikTok Live. We are... Okay, Dave roasted. First person. First of... last time we had like 12,000 people, which is kind of fun. I wish they were all at once. Wouldn't that be kind of a trip?
That'd be a little different.
Yeah, so they're notifying... Oh, okay, invite... that's Sid. But we don't invite her to be a guest, right? Sid, you're there. Kelly, right out of the gate. Kelly, hey, how you doing? So we got people. Look, I've never done this. Say hi to Kelly. I just did. I just pressed it. I don't know what that did. Jay, what if I say hi to Jay? What if I say hi to Blues? Oh, I've never done that before. John, Mackie, look. Okay. Right. Hey, did we start the YouTube? Sydney, we didn't start YouTube. Should we do this? We're just gonna go TikTok tonight.
Yeah, we're gonna skip the YouTube.
We're gonna skip the YouTube. We're just going TikTok tonight. So, Kelly, look, hi, OMG, is that Mackie?
This is Mackie.
This is Mackie. Wait, we gotta start off official then. Ready? Okay. Hey, Mac.
Hey, Tony.
Sid says, hey, Dad.
Hey, Father.
Okay, that's fine. Hey,
Not
Father. Welcome. Tonight we are excited to have you guys here. I am Tony Overbay. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. This is Mackie. She is...
Jobless.
Jobless. She's indeed jobless, but Mackie is a licensed cosmetologist.
Yeah.
And we have a podcast that the two of us do that is called The Mind, the Mirror, and Me, where we talk about, there's actually a fascinating amount of, you are basically a hair therapist, a hairapist.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a big part of the job that people don't realize.
It really is, and I think that's kind of fun. So tonight, honestly, oh, look at this already. You look so pretty.
That's Sydney.
Okay, well, still, you don't have to say that.
Thanks,
and we have Sydney, who is normally sitting here beside me, is moderating, which is so fascinating. Which I said, so have fun, and they're moderating. You know, CT, your smile is breathtaking. Thank you. That's so nice. It really does. It makes me feel very good. I appreciate that. I really do. So we're going to talk about anything as a mental health professional. We can talk about mental health things, anxiety, depression, ADHD. We're going to talk tonight about the differences between ADHD and anxiety, because that's one of the things that we've talked about on our podcast. Mm-hmm. But right now, go find The Mind, the Mirror, and Me, whether on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts. And Mackie and I have, I think, about 20 episodes or more.
No, that's probably about
20 episodes. Yeah. And we better watch out with Sydney moderating. Kelly, you are correct. No one is safe. Oh, I love this. Okay. We can talk about OCD. Sydney, don't ban us. Okay, people know that Sydney is ready to ban. And can we talk about what's going through Sid's mind with that username? John, that is a very good point.
Exposed.
That is okay. All right, get that person out of there right away, right? Did you see that one? Yeah. They're so cool. It's so fun. But, we can even talk about the reflected sense of self and why the emotionally immature person has to come on and throw out insults to make themselves feel better, because that speaks to what's going on for them, which is a fascinating concept. It really is. So we're going to talk about, I think one of the things we'll start out with is ADHD versus anxiety. But I honestly want to put this out there I want to put this out there that even if you have hair-related questions, I have none. Mackie's a phenomenal, talk about what you do. You do extensions, you do, what else?
I do just color and extensions.
Yeah, which is going, and you're talking to people for hours. When we were talking before about you as a therapist, as a hairapist?
Yeah, it's like 3 to 5 hours.
Okay.
Typically.
So right out of the gate, talk about that. Are there times where you run out of things to say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which it's nice with clients that I like my consistent clients, you kind of just get comfy with that, and I kind of zone out and do my thing, and they'll zone out and do their thing. And sometimes we'll listen, I'll let them pick music they want to listen to, whatever. But yeah, I'm the one that usually has to come up with lots of things.
Okay, which I'll say right out of the gate, that is different, because the therapist and me, I want them to talk.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you do with silence? Because in the therapy world, silence is really, really uncomfortable.
Does it even happen? I feel like
sometimes, a lot of times people will go silent because they're used to somebody else bailing them out.
Oh.
Because I remember working with a teenager and their mom, and it was really interesting because the teenager would just sit there and wait. And then the mom would then fill in the gap of silence, would tell the teenager how they're feeling or what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And then at one point, though, I basically was saying to the teenager, hey, so why aren't you really saying anything right now? And then he just said, I don't have to. Because my mom will jump in and tell me how I'm feeling or that sort of thing. Yeah. So do you have stuff prepared or no?
I mean, okay, but see, Kelly just said, get me in the chair at the salon and I'll usually spill my guts.
Okay.
That is, I feel like, more typical.
Really?
Like, more people will just talk and tell me everything
Oh.
about their entire lives.
Yeah.
Which I love. It's
Yeah.
my favorite part of the job, honestly. But then there are people that will not say a word, and I'll try really hard. Like,
Yes.
I'll, like, ask questions.
Yeah.
And they just will give me, like, 1 or 2 words. And then I feel like at that point, though, I can kind of just read the room
Yeah.
and let it be quiet, where you couldn't really do that. Right?
No.
Like, in a therapy session, it's like you can't just...
I mean, in one sense you
maybe.
can, because silence, if we talk about what we, and Kelly, I'm curious if you don't have to tell rat yourself out here, but if you talk to a therapist, do you do the same thing there? Or do you kind of go in there a little bit unsure, not really quite sure how to do? Cloud Hetty, second time here, who's with me today. This is my middle child daughter, Mackie.
Sydney and I are tied in the middle.
I know you are.
Like,
Yeah, we have an older daughter,
Yeah.
Alex. Then I've got then it goes Mackie, Sydney, and then my youngest son, Jake. Yeah. So it's like, thanks for the gifts. I dig it. I do. We'll have to get into maybe middle child syndrome a little bit later too, right?
We totally.
I mean, that's been fun and awesome, right?
It's so fun. I love it.
But in the concept of differentiation, or what do you do with your discomfort, it is funny because in the therapy world, it's really hard. As a therapist, you're kind of not supposed to work harder than your client. Mm-hmm. And so when things are silent, it is so hard to not jump in and say, hey, so tell me more. Are you feeling this way or that way? But sometimes when you can sit with a silence, then the person will come up with something. And people that typically are more introverted or quiet, they won't open up a lot because they don't have to. Because
True.
Right?
Yeah.
Because if they just are quiet, somebody else fills in the gap of space because other people get so uncomfortable with that silence.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. And I do feel like with my job, though, then, people... I think for some people, like I work with a lot of moms.
Yeah.
And being a mom is obviously so hard and there's so much to it. And so I think a lot of people, too, love to just have 3 hours where they can just exist.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
and not have to do or think about anything.
And so sometimes I'll even open it up that way and be like, okay, are we, like, is today kind of a quiet day, or are we talking, or are we... And sometimes they just want to sit there.
Yeah,
and
totally.
play little games on their phone and scroll through Instagram and just be.
Yeah.
And that's totally a thing.
Samo, we see some real questions coming in here too that we'll address those. So Wendy is
like,
being a grandma watching a baby right now, so I don't know if we'll have to keep track of those. I'm gonna pull up. It's funny. I pulled up a browser over here, and I've been sitting here trying to think, what was I gonna look up? But I'm gonna put the question document up here, and then even if I need to type the questions, we'll do that too. So we'll get to that too, because I think that would be really good to do that. Brendan's my license still active. Probably talking about you. Right?
Mine's active in Utah right now, but we don't live in Utah anymore, and it's in the process of being transferred. But it does exist.
Okay, and what's the process of getting it transferred to California?
It's been the biggest nightmare of my entire life.
Okay.
It just is taking so... For whatever reason, they
wait, Wendy's here. Here we go. All right. Thank you. Okay.
They don't use email between Utah and Arizona for whatever reason, so I have to, like, mail things and then wait for other things to be mailed, and then...
Okay.
And then like, hey, now we need this, now we need that, and whatever. But I think I've done everything, and now it literally is just, I'm just waiting.
Okay. We do have Kelly. I've never been to therapy, would like to. Okay, so Kelly, maybe that hair stylist is the therapist. And we've actually, Mackie and I have talked before about doing some sort of a little bit of a course of sorts to talk about, not like saying that you will now become the therapist, but a little bit of those type of skills of just that active listening, tell me more, curiosity, that sort of thing. But I think you do pretty good about that too, though.
I try to.
Oh, here we got two. Amber Lynn, can you tell me what to do when my heart starts racing? I start feeling dizzy, lightheaded, and sweaty. I think that'll be good too. I think that would be one to talk about because that'll get into the anxiety.
Yeah, that's like one of my first
Alan, thank you.
Responses.
Tony, they appreciate that. Yeah. So Alan's in roses. So should we kind of ease into? Wait, let's do a warm up question. So Kelly told us she's never been in therapy. Would like to. Oh, Sydney's on the dock too. And then, Valerie, hi. How do you think your childhood was different than your friends or peers because of your dad's job? And Mackie and I talk about this on our podcast a little bit because Mackie was one that I practiced air quote a little bit on.
Yikes.
Oh, that's a good word, right?
I mean, it's
okay,
valid.
I will look over this way and you talk about
You just leave the room for a minute and I'm just going to chat.
Okay.
No, I feel like I get this question a lot when people find out that you're a therapist. Yeah, because people assume that it's...
And Bree says, are we both therapists? So I'm a therapist. Mackie's a hairapist.
No, I'm a hairstylist.
Yeah, okay. But I didn't know you get it a lot.
I get it a lot when I say that because people assume that it would be awful.
Okay,
like, people assume that you came home every day and, like, grilled me with questions or, like, how are we feeling? Tell me more.
Tell me
all the
more.
things.
Lay down on the couch.
Literally.
Talk about your mom.
No, I think it was the best thing. Okay. And I really liked it. And I think it was, but I think I always preface that with saying you did a really good job of
You're nice.
balancing. No, genuinely though. Like, this is what I tell people when they ask and you're not even in the room.
Okay.
Like, it's just what I say. But you balanced it really well, where I feel like you would know, like, this is a moment to step in and offer tools or like go deeper, or this is a moment where I can just be the dad and like offer the humor and do those things.
Yeah.
And my favorite thing that you did when I was a kid is you would just come and sit on my floor.
So I was going to talk about.
Yeah.
Like I didn't make that. We didn't make that up, right?
No.
That
You
happened.
would just come sit on my floor at the end of the day, and like sometimes I wouldn't say a word.
Yep.
And sometimes we would have big talks, but it's like I would just be in there feeling things, being sad, whatever, and you would just sit on my floor and kind of leave it up to me a little bit if it was like, are we going to talk about this or are we not?
Yeah.
And then I feel like you would gauge that.
Yeah.
And decide, if you were going to like
that was the hope.
Be the therapist or not. So I thought it was great, and I do think I learned a lot more tools than most kids get to learn, which is nice because I deal with my mental health things.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm really lucky in that sense.
Kind of tackle it head on.
Yeah, like I got the tools really early on.
Yeah.
And then have just been able to build on that, which is nice.
Gosh, there's such good questions coming in here too. And
yeah.
I mean,
I can talk about that forever, but we can.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, and I was even thinking about yours on healing
me.
relationship trauma while in one. We'll get to that one as well because you've had some stuff as well.
That's such a good question.
Yeah.
And I just watched something that my mom sent me, but it's Nikki Harmon posted something. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I haven't seen it. And Nikki's awesome. Should be fun to get on
awesome.
here.
And should
we jump in there?
We totally can if you're down.
Yeah, and while we're doing that too, Cloud Hetty, I'm still learning your chat, what questions are allowed. Honestly, any kind of, we want to talk about any mental health related things, anxiety, depression, OCD, emotional immaturity, seeking validation, dealing with discomfort. But also I'm a marriage therapist. I have been for almost 20 years, and I do a lot of couples work. And so I do like dealing with couples, which is kind of fascinating. And I work with addiction and a lot of those things. So really anything, and we'll try to get to it. I know that we will go on some wonderful tangents, and that will happen. While you're looking that up, can I finish this thought of where I would go in and sit on your floor or whatever? Yeah. We missed the opportunity for jokes, so I would try to sit on patches of your floor that were...
Okay. We're going to do that.
Well, okay, but what I'm curious about is, see, that was me being very supportive because I wouldn't go in there, clean this place up or that sort of thing. Yeah. But I will tell you, and this is what I do remember is, and you're do you feel like you're much cleaner now?
Than high school,
yeah, right. That sounded so mean to me, right? Much cleaner. You really, right?
You're so disgusting.
Okay, but I do think one of the interesting things is I remember, and this is, I think, that sometimes when I go speak about this and I'll talk about that laying on your floor and just and listening to you share your experiences is I think that's where as a parent it's your job to not always go in there and think that you have to fix or give advice, but it's just to listen. And you would sometimes share stories about relationships or things that were going on with your friends that I would want to say things about, but I realize that's where as a parent it's the long game a little bit. So then, because if you want to get rid of your discomfort, you immediately then try to just give advice, because then I can say, okay, I did good. I told her this is what she needs to do. And then if you felt like that's all that our relationship was like, then you're going to feel like you just have to go, oh, okay. And then I'm going to say, good talk.
Right. And it's like in that moment, I don't need that.
Yeah.
I just need you to be there. And so I think that's such a good reminder for parents.
Exactly.
Because sometimes they just need you to be there. They don't need to hear the words.
Okay, and Cloud Hetty, Dad, do you that on your own, or what you learn in therapy? It's really more of what I've learned in therapy. I don't think I was, I always say that we don't know what we don't know, and these tools really don't come natural from the factory. So I'm grateful to have learned that. Grateful to have learned some of those tools in becoming a therapist. And the joke is always that therapists become therapists to work on their own stuff. I was convinced that was not me. I just liked the work, but oh man, it's made me, I think, a better father and hopefully a better husband and person and that sort of thing. So that's been nice. Oh, there's some good questions coming in here. There really is. This is good. Okay, so let's go with the Nikki Harmon thing.
I don't even know. It's like.
So this was about the question about breaking up. Oh, do you deal with breakup how do you deal with, what was the question?
What's
trauma?
your opinion on healing relationship trauma while in one?
Yeah.
Which basically this post, it's about Nikki Harmon Therapy on Instagram.
Yeah,
if
follow
wants
her.
to, like,
we're big Nikki Harmon fans.
Actually go read the whole thing. But basically just the concept that in order to heal relationship trauma, some of that has to happen in a relationship. which is deep, and I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't really think of it that way. But saying, like, the potential healing has to be in the same place as the potential hurt.
Yeah.
And so you do, and we talked about this a little bit the other day too, but
Yeah.
you kind of have to let, I think, the new person or the new relationship, like, you have to, like we were talking about, like, give them a chance to, I don't know, heal you in a sense, or help you get there, or I don't know.
Well, relationships, I was saying that relationships are, they are people growing machines, and if you're just in your own head, you can create a lot of stories around why somebody does what they do, or why I don't have to do a certain thing. And so again, it goes back to one of the ways that we can alleviate our discomfort is to immediately get rid of a relationship.
Yeah,
right?
And just be done with it.
Yeah, and so, I think one of the biggest challenges, one of the podcasts I have is called, I'm sitting there reading the comments. My ADHD's going crazy. See, somebody said, your daughter's so gorgeous. Nikki Harmon Therapy on it. Thanks. That was you. Thanks, Mackie, here.
Gotcha.
But where was I going with that?
No idea.
It was going to be so good, Mac. So powerful.
I'm sure it was.
Oh, okay. One of the podcasts I do is called Waking Up to Narcissism. And in that one, I talk about, people reach out to me often and they say, okay, is my partner a narcissist? Am I the narcissist? And that's why in that podcast, I was very specific about, narcissistic personality disorder is a very small percentage of the population, but we're all emotionally immature. And so, but then it's what we do with that immaturity, what we do with that discomfort. Are we willing to self-confront? Are we willing to grow? But when you're in a relationship, and I think this is why that question's so good, and what Nikki's saying is, and look at that. I love mac and cheese. I love that name. Oh, I thought they were saying, I have done that. How do I develop a strong sense of self from an enmeshed, invalidating, unempathetic parents? Oh man, I read 2 words in your question, and I thought you were making a statement. Let's get to that one too. That's a good one. That's a good one. So where I was going to go with this is that, so when you're in a relationship though, our default really is to say, okay, it must be me. Like I can do something about this, and there's a pretty deep thought here of that if I can fix it, then that means it is fixable. But if I can't fix it, there's a chance that means that it's out of my control, and we want control so desperately. Mm-hmm. So we want to almost default and think that it's my problem to fix, because then I can fix it. But if I fix myself in the relationship, then that relationship has been for good. But then we hope that then we're working on these things together, and then we have shared experiences, we grow together. So that's the hope, because we all get into relationships and we are enmeshed and we're codependent because we just don't know what we don't know. We don't want to lose this person. We have this like inherent fear that we're going to be alone forever. So we just look for sometimes the best in that person, and then we show up just assuming almost like the worst in us. Mom keeps saying Sydney's here. Oh, we've been talking to Sid. Yeah, but thank you, Wendy. It's great that she's here. But so when you get in the relationship, that's why I say it is a people growing machine. And so we're going to go into these interactions. But what's hard, and we've been talking about this, is to have the courage to then express how you really feel, not from a place of manipulation.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were talking about a really interesting thing where somebody that you're in a relationship with might do something, and it's really easy to say, I wish they would have done it different. Talk about that. Like, what were you saying with that?
Well, I'm really good at that when it comes to relationships. Because in my overthinking brain, I will, like, play out a whole scenario in my head of this is what this person should do if they care about me, which is not a fair or valid thing to be like, you have to do this if you care about me.
Yeah. Why didn't they say it this way?
Right.
Or I wish they would have done it this other way.
Exact words. And I think that's not fair to anyone. And then I'll play that out in my head, and then if it doesn't happen exactly that way, then I'm like, they must not care about me. Yeah.
Yes, I'm funny. Is this the same daughter? It's this is a different one. Or she's playing the role of my daughter tonight.
Yeah.
I know, this is actually my daughter. And then Cloud Hetty, that's a great comment there where, I always change how I say things to family versus friends, which I want to say normal, very normal, but one of the ways to become more emotionally consistent is to look at how I can show up and be the same in a good way, emotionally consistent, or I show up authentically in all my relationships. Now, sometimes that's really difficult because we will put on like a work persona, but if ideally we can be the same, then we are going to show up a little bit more consistent in all of our relationships, and it actually can become pretty easier for people to then trust us or lean into what we're saying, because they know that they can count on us as being consistent, instead of then sometimes we're one way, sometimes we're the other. Lindsay, all your daughters are beautiful. That's very nice. I appreciate that. Sarah, how do I deal with an avoidant as a partner, as an anxious attachment partner right here talking to you. So let's get that one on here as well. Okay, do this one. Who said that one? Sydney?
Speed run here.
Okay, here we go. Oh, Wendy's changing the diaper. So Sid's on charge. Okay, do this one, Sam. I've been really angry recently. I'm diagnosed with CPTSD, anxiety, and depression. I don't know what's going on. Nothing really changed in my life recently, but it feels like everything is my last straw. Oh, Sam, thank you for being here. And let's kind of break those down a little bit. CPTSD, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, is typically viewed as relationship PTSD. Now that can be relationship like a partner, a spouse, a boyfriend, girlfriend, someone that you're in a relationship with. A lot of times it can even be from parents. And what CPTSD is more about is when some of the symptoms of CPTSD are things like a lack or loss of short-term memory, which is pretty wild to think about. And if we get into a little bit of and again, I'm a marriage and family therapist. I'm not claiming to be a neurologist, but my understanding is that when you're in a pretty constant state of fight or flight, and you are in your relationships, then your anxiety's high, your heart rate's pretty much elevated at all times, your cortisol level is high. And so then it's like you're just on edge trying to manage your emotions and then trying to figure out how do I show up and what's the right way to interact with the people I'm in relationships with. And so all of that takes a lot of emotional calories or energy.
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting,
genuinely
right?
exhausting.
Yeah, and so one of the first things to go is your short-term memory, because it's like, no, I just have to try to figure all this stuff out and deal with these things. And so I think when you can just really look at it that way, then right out of the gate, that CPTSD will often come with anxiety. And then when we feel overwhelmed and we just feel like I'm not really sure what's even going on, and that can lead to these feelings of depression as well. So when you say nothing really changed in your life recently, when I have clients in my office and they're kind of saying, I don't know what's going on, I just kind of feel this way, I think one of the first things that we do is we just start saying, okay, hey, take me back through your last couple of days, your last week, your last month. And then I think often we just are so used to overlooking what is happening in our lives that we, sometimes when somebody lays out I don't know, so I've been feeling down, maybe I'm struggling with some financial issues, maybe a parent has not really been showing up for me, my friends are not inviting me to things, I'm seeing people on social media that are having more fun, I'm not sure what I want to do with my career, and all of a sudden you think, holy cow, no wonder you're feeling that way,
right.
Yeah. I don't know, what are your thoughts on that question?
I don't know, then Laura just said, any thoughts on the CPTSD question when it's still active and ongoing?
Yeah.
So would you change, would that shift your answer at all? Or
Yeah,
do you feel
it's a great point, because one of the things is the fact that Sam's here, or that Laura is bringing that up, is that you're aware of it, and too often we aren't even just aware of it. And you might know where I'm going to go with this, because it's one of my favorite concepts of when you're just unaware of it, you're just going around and you're just reacting in life. But when you're aware, now you're at least, you went from going that you didn't know what you didn't know, but now I know, and I'm just really not sure what to do. And sometimes that can even amplify the anxiety, because now you are aware of it. And sometimes people wish that I wasn't even aware. I could go back to this, this state of unknowing, but not really, because I think that what's happening is eventually, your body keeps the score. Your brain is a don't get killed device. So it's going to amp up your anxiety, because it's saying, we got to figure this out, So then I think that as you start to be aware of this is happening, and now you're watching TikToks. Hopefully you're going to a therapist. You're starting to look at things online. You're listening to podcasts. Maybe you're reading books, and you're on the path of becoming or enlightened. Becoming, I don't want to say enlightened, but path of growth, emotional healing.
You're moving in the right direction.
You're moving in the right direction.
It doesn't feel like
it. But that it's like the second stage of this growth is really difficult, because right now you might feel like I don't even know what to do. Everything's out of control. But then as you continue down this path, eventually you start to understand more about yourself, the things that we're talking about tonight, or you start to, maybe I do need to go talk to somebody. All right, now that I'm aware of what CPTSD is, I'm going to go read about it more. And so it'll still bring with it big feelings, but you're starting to take more action on it for you. So you go from I didn't know what I didn't know to I know, but man, I'm not sure what to do. And this is a pretty rough place to be, to eventually, okay, I kind of understand it more, and I'm starting to do more things about it. And then you just start to become. You start to then say, okay, I'm feeling a little bit better. But that process takes a long time. You've been working on things. Talk about your experiences, Mackie.
Which ones? There's so many.
I mean, it's really even as you've been going through. You were diagnosed with the autoimmune.
It was.
And that at first was just, did it feel overwhelming?
So overwhelming.
So you did not know you had it?
Didn't know I had it.
Didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah.
Then you knew, and then what were your immediate thoughts and feelings?
I was terrified, and I was like, I don't want to deal with this. I don't know how to deal with this.
Yeah.
Why am I dealing with this?
Yeah.
Do I have to deal with it? Like, just all the bad. There was nothing good about, like, no good part of it.
And you didn't go for the big hits that Mom and I would say, like, hey, it's okay, and you're going to get through it. That didn't quite help, did it?
No, isn't that weird? It didn't really do anything.
Yeah. But what was that process like, though? Because then you went from, I didn't know, then I know, but I'm overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And then what have you started to do? Because you've made some big changes. Like, I've been very proud of you.
I think, and I think it's part of it. I think you have to, like, take a minute to feel all the negative things and have that moment. Like, I don't think you have to just jump past that when something big happens like that. But then I think as humans, right, we would just want control.
Yeah.
And everyone does.
Yeah, we do.
And so it's like, I think then as soon as I could kind of step away from the negative for a second, it was kind of okay, what can I control in this situation? Obviously, I can't just make everything go away, and I can't just, like, fix it. But I can get on this medication, and I can change these things about my lifestyle, and I can, like, put in this effort in these other ways.
Yeah.
And then maybe I'll feel okay. And maybe it'll be okay. And so it's like I made all those changes.
Hey, can I ask you, what was helpful? Because I almost feel like the more, if Mom and I were trying, not that we wanted to make suggestions, but you did it on your own, really.
Yeah.
What's that? What did you need the most of? Did you need people to back off? Did you want more empathy or support? Did you?
I don't know. It's hard because I do think more than anything, I just needed you to tell me that it sucks and it's not fair.
Okay.
And I wish I could take it away and like hear those things.
Yeah.
But
I like what Sam. Yeah.
At the beginning, it definitely was hard to like I didn't want to hear, well, why don't you do this and why don't you do that, and because it was just the butting everything, and it was like, you don't know because you're not experiencing this.
Well, can we talk
that
about
was
that?
what it felt. Yeah, that was like the biggest thing, and I think that's how it goes for most people in a situation like that. When anything happens in life that's not great, it's just like, well, you don't know, like you didn't experience it. And
nobody knows what it feels like to be you.
And it's true. That's the thing.
No
it
one
is
does.
true. Like that and it's supposed to be a mean thing or a bad thing, but it's like, when I was diagnosed with my autoimmune disease, you haven't experienced that. And even if you had your own autoimmune disease, you don't have mine.
I'm a 54-year-old dude.
Yeah, like it's all so different, and so it's so, like people just want to be heard, and that's all. It's like, and there's like to be loved is to be seen. Like you just need to. I just wanted to be seen and heard, and I wanted to know that I was valid in being so upset. I think is the bigger thing. Like I just needed you to tell me that it's okay that I'm mad. Yeah. And it's okay that I'm not stoked about it. Yeah. And that I don't want to make the changes, but that I'm willing to at least maybe try. Like, it was just,
Sam's preaching truth here. My therapist is teaching me right now that I can't control other people's thoughts and feelings. Good therapist, Sam, you're listening. And Sam, but I can't stand the thought that I upset people with my words and actions. Okay, this is so good. And I'll tell you why. Man, we're touching on some good stuff here. Because that's some of that stuff, like a parent wants to get rid of my discomfort and be a good parent by saying, it's okay. You're going to be okay. Because that makes me feel better.
That's what anyone says in any situation.
Well, hopefully.
Like that.
Some people are like, well, what am I supposed to do about it?
Yeah.
I mean, we know those people too.
People that are nice will say, it's going to be okay.
And then what Sam says that's so good right there, I think, is that now I almost want to say, listen to this. This is what I'll hear people say often. Well, they will say, well, yeah, but I don't want to bring it up to that person because I don't want them to feel bad, and I'm worried that then they might think this about me. And so look at all that worry and worrying about things that may or may not occur, and that's one of the recipes of anxiety. Jay is the same daughter. This is a different daughter, Mackie. Sydney's actually the one moderating tonight. We didn't even say Sydney's in Switzerland right now.
there's a reason she's not in here.
No, Sydney is like by the Swiss Alps in a river and probably like eating Swiss chocolates right now with somebody massaging her feet or something. Although it is 5 a.m. So Sydney, thank you.
Still could be happening.
Exactly, right? Cloud Eddie, being human is hard, for real.
Okay, but the one before that.
Go. What was that?
Cloud Eddie also just said, when I was so depressed, I kept hearing, you're fine. Like right now I'm not. Is that okay? And that, I feel that's so hard. Because I was diagnosed with depression when I think I was 14.
Yeah.
And
we tried. Get over it. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. All the greatest hits.
We tried all the things.
Yeah.
And none of them really worked.
Shocking.
Yeah, I know. Crazy.
Yeah.
But I think such a big thing that I wish I would have felt more when I was first diagnosed is that, yeah, it's okay that you're not okay. You're human.
Yep.
There's so many times where you're not going to be okay, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And it's like, that sounds kind of silly, but it's okay to not be okay, and it's part of being human.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean it's permanent. It doesn't mean it's forever. My favorite thing is that no feeling is final, even though that applies to good and bad.
Yeah.
But it's okay to not be okay. And I think admitting and accepting that you're maybe not okay in that moment is what allows you to then feel the things and continue on and end up being at least kind of okay.
Yeah. We've talked about this as acceptance. Acceptance is a big piece of recovery. Recovery
Huge.
from any mental health or even addiction. Is acceptance means that
any negative thing in life, I think,
Yeah.
in general, like, it's so, the acceptance part is so
it really is,
key.
because we think that acceptance means, all right, I guess that's it.
Like
I'm
giving
depressed
up, kind
forever.
of?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we think that. I always say acceptance doesn't mean apathy, but I think I need a different word than apathy because people don't always know what that means.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, but acceptance means to take in without defense in its entirety. If I accept the fact that I'm going to have anxiety, then I am
Then
going
I can
to.
do something
I'm
about
gonna
it.
yeah,
I can
and
work with it instead of working against
yeah,
it.
and I can go
yeah.
and I can go out and I can hang out with friends. I can exercise. I can pet my dog. I can make
Yeah.
food, and then I can and then I have anxiety. And then, but if you are so focused on wanting to alleviate your anxiety, then you're going to avoid all situations, and that anxiety is actually going to be the thing that is controlling your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Jay said, my mom used to say feelings are not good or bad, they just are.
Ooh.
And it's like, I think that's it
Yeah,
right there.
it
Like,
is, yeah.
it is just that acceptance of
Yeah, like that is a thing. That
feelings
is a
are gonna
feeling.
come and go, and it's
Yep.
okay. And some of them are good, and some are bad, and some are neutral. It's
Yeah.
just like, it's
Oh.
okay.
Let me, Amber's brought that one up a couple times. My 6-year-old has bad PTSD from a car wreck due to rain. Any tips? And Amber, this is where I just want to take ownership and just say, I don't know enough about working with kids, and there are some amazing kid therapists out there. And so I just really don't know. I actually did my practicum out in grad school with the Child Abuse Prevention Council of Placer County, and it was because I just didn't find a practicum site quick enough. So I did a lot of training, and it was around things like play therapy and so at that time, I got really good at Jenga. I could play the heck out of Candyland, that sort of thing. But admittedly, I know that you were just trying to get kids to talk, and so. But that's all I know, and that was 20-something years ago. So I think it would be really nice to find somebody that specializes in trauma with children, because I know things like the car wreck or things like that can heighten one's anxiety, and I know there are certain types of exposure therapy that you can do that could help. So thank you for asking that, though. I appreciate that. Cloudheady said, do I offer one-on-one help services? I do. You can reach out to me through DMing here or go through my website, tonyoverbay.com, and you can reach out through the contact form. I've been blessed with a real nice practice, so we'd have to see if it fits schedules and that sort of thing. But I mean, I absolutely love what I do. Swim with sharks. Do I ever work with combat veterans? I do, and I really think that working with I so appreciate a combat veteran, because I think that so many people there just feel like they can't. They're not supposed to have feelings, or those things weren't supposed to be so difficult. So I've actually worked with a fair amount of people that have first responders, combat veterans, people that have seen a lot of things, and then they feel like they just need to bottle them up. But the more that we keep things inside, and the more that things run around in our heads, then we have a tendency to default to the negative. And there's some pretty cool data that just says actually being able to just express yourself to someone, and this is why I love being a therapist, is that expressing yourself to somebody and they actually are just saying, tell me more, what was that like, then what happened. And even a good friend has a hard time, like what we're talking about earlier, not saying, oh, well, don't worry about it, or it's not a big deal, or well, at least you did this. And so that's when we don't feel very heard. We feel like we're being told, okay, you're doing it wrong. Like you're doing you wrong. Because if you're saying, but I am worrying about it, then if somebody says, well, but don't, look at all the blessings you have. You're here. And, that doesn't, but that's a nice person trying to get rid of their discomfort. Right? By saying, oh, don't worry about it. Yeah. Okay, combat veterans, boxing helps my contempt for people. Man, I could see having some way to just get that those feelings out. It's interesting. I've done a couple podcasts where I talked about there is some data that says that when you get really angry and then you punch a punching bag or something, that in one sense you're telling yourself that the way I alleviate my anger is to get really angry. But that's when somebody's just doing it in that moment. But if you are intentionally starting you're starting to box, or you're doing a form of martial arts, because martial arts actually has some really good data that shows that it helps a lot with anxiety, depression. I don't do martial arts.
Shocking.
You probably, I know, with these hands and that kind of quickness, you're probably surprised, right?
Yeah.
But it's like that, being intentional about doing something to get rid of some energy and that sort of thing is good. You have been running like a
that's my
that's your
outlet.
thing, right?
Well, that's your thing.
Well,
you run more than I do.
That was a funny thing too, where I think that I always thought that because we got the kids into races early. I mean, there's a video out there. Sid will kill me for this, right? But there's one where she's finishing a 5K at 4 or 5, I think.
Yeah.
And then you're in there at 7 or something, or right? Yeah.
8.
8. Yeah, it's kind of fun. Okay. There's a question, and Amanda Claire said, thoughts on if PCOS can affect depression and anxiety. And then full transparency, I believe I know what PCS is, and I had to go Google it just to make sure. And PCOS, common hormone problem for women of childbearing age, and women with PCOS may not ovulate. They have high levels of androgens, may have small cysts on the ovaries, and so it can cause infertility, it can cause weight gain, it can cause acne, and so I would imagine that would be pretty closely tied with things like anxiety and depression, but I don't have a lot of experience with it. Do you know anything about?
Yeah, I know like a couple people that have it, and I've had clients that have had it, and we've like talked about it, and I do think, I mean, just the fact that it has to do with hormones.
Yeah, exactly.
100%, yes, it can. Like I would, not a doctor, but if it affects your hormones, yes, it can affect depression and anxiety. It's all interlinked and tied together. So I think that's valid.
I think so
say.
too.
Yeah.
Corey, it's so hard not to give advice and encouragement when you just need to simply listen. Amen. Again, it's so interesting when you look at it, like we're wired to alleviate discomfort, and we also want certainty. So we would love to do 2 in 1. Get rid of my discomfort by telling this person, here's what you need to do, and then and validation. That's the trifecta. Because then I want to say, okay, don't worry about it. Makes me feel better. Here's what you need to do. And then if it works, then I have some certainty that now they're happy, and validation where they're going to come back later and say, you're amazing.
So then you're feeling pretty good.
You're feeling great, yeah. But that maybe isn't actually working for them. Let's see. Sam, both the distraction and the people in here being so supportive, awesome. I was having a bad night. Being here has really helped me calm down. Sam, thank you for being here. I really appreciate
and
that.
Thanks for being vulnerable.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think that's how we heal.
It is.
I'm glad you're here.
When we're all stuffing it in and trying to pretend that everything's great and rosy all the time, that's when we're trying to convince ourselves.
Nothing good happens there.
It doesn't. It really, it's tough.
Yeah.
Now, can we have a good day? Absolutely. And when you do, take it in. And just, there were a couple of times today where I just was feeling amazing. And so in those moments, I did, you do a little bit of grounding exercise. Like, what am I doing right now? What am I feeling? What am I hearing? What am I listening to? What am I smelling? And just like bring that in, feel it. Because, sometimes we can have a moment like that, and then 10 minutes later.
Right. Complete opposite.
Complete opposite, right? Okay, so let's go to...
Do you want to go down further to some of the older ones,
okay.
and we can just do a little speed
Okay, let's
run?
do that. Oh, man, okay. Let's see. Gosh, these are good. I mean, they're sad.
Like
they're
devastating.
sad. Cloud Hattie, ignorance is bliss, but knowledge is power. This is true.
Amen.
Yeah. Any old people here that watched Schoolhouse Rock? Knowledge is power. The great Schoolhouse Rock, he told us that. Did you watch any of the Schoolhouse Rocks? I'm just a Bill. Conjunction Junction, what's your function?
Oh, yeah.
That was Schoolhouse Rocky. Okay, so now we've got a little bit of a trifecta. We've got, my child has anxiety so severe she can't leave the house. Her dad did damage and vanished. We've got, how do I develop a strong sense of self from enmeshed, invalidating, unempathetic parents? What happens if a narcissist doesn't want to communicate to heal the relationship? Is it possible to do alone, or do we need support? So those 4, I mean, I know they're not all the same, but do you see, I don't know, where do you want to jump in? You pick one first.
I don't know. I think the is it possible to do alone, or do we need support was when we were talking about the healing relationship trauma thing.
Oh, okay.
So,
that's a great question.
Yeah, and so I feel like that in Nikki's post, she does say something about how we have to do the work ourselves, but that we need the people too. Like whether it's a partner, a parent, a friend.
Yeah.
And so I think there's, I would say it's both, because I think there is work that you have to do.
Yeah. So let me give you an example.
Own.
Yes.
Yeah. But I don't think we're supposed to do things all by ourselves all the time. I don't think I don't think humans are supposed to be alone.
Now, the Sue Johnson, founder of Emotionally Focused Therapy, recently passed, who did amazing work, has a quote where we're designed to deal with emotion in concert with another human. Now, that's assuming that the other human is on board, which I think is one of the interesting concepts. So the marriage therapist to me, though, I get couples that come in, but often when a couple comes in, one person is almost checked out at times. And they might be coming just to check a box, or the person finally convinced their spouse or partner to come into couples counseling. And that's one of those things.
Does that ever, like, does anything positive ever come
it can.
from that?
Yeah. If the person that is almost feeling like they have to come in, if they are not really too emotionally immature, and they can just say, because a lot of people avoid counseling just because they don't know what it is, and it's that fear of uncertainty.
Yeah.
But if they come in and then, I don't know, I think I'm a fun hang, and the information makes sense. And so then if therapy doesn't seem so scary, then somebody might come in a little bit more apprehensive, but then they're saying, okay, I'm down.
Could open that door a little bit.
And it's really good. But so I'll give you an example, though. I talk often about, I've got these 4 pillars of a connected conversation that I think are the way to really communicate with another person. And it's a framework, and I really believe that it's a framework that needs to be done all the time, so it's not just weaponized. But the 4 pillars, really, there's this pre-pillar, and I'd love for you to weigh in on these, so I won't just like blast through them. So when we're in a relationship with somebody, one of the first things that we do is we observe what they're doing, and then we make a judgment. So let's say that somebody, they don't get back to you right away when they said they would. So that's an observation. And then the judgment we make might be, well, they obviously don't care. Ever done that?
What? No.
So one of the first things that I call that my pre-pillar of a connected conversation. So we have to learn to separate the observation from the judgment. The observation is they didn't text me back when they said they would. The observation is they said that they were going to come over at 8 o'clock and now it's 9. The judgment then comes right in. We do it. We just do it naturally because it's our way to try to make sense of the situation. Okay. So then we say, well, they must not care.
Yeah.
So now if we go in and we say, hey, tell me what's going on, if they don't say, you know what, I just don't care, then we sometimes say they're not even being honest with themselves. So it's as if we've already made the judgment, and now they have to defend themselves against something that isn't even the case.
Because we've decided that that's how it has to be.
Yeah, and I had a client recently that I really liked. This client, they were very frustrated. They were going through a lot, and then they were letting me know. They were even when I was saying, "Man, that sounds really difficult," and I'm sorry that's how you're feeling about this situation. And they were saying, "See, you're doing it right now. You're alleviating your discomfort." And and it's funny because my immediate response would want to just be, "No, I'm not." No, but because I knew that I was genuinely feeling empathetic about what this person was going through, but it was wild to sit there and think about this, where they've already made a judgment of what I'm doing right now, and they're basically telling me to prove that that's not what I'm doing. And when you look at it that way, but that's not what I'm doing, so I'm gonna come up and try to guess with some ways to prove it.
Yikes.
Sam's got to go, or no? Yeah, that's Sam. Okay, thanks, Sam. But does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, and it's funny because when you put it that way, it's like, that's so not fair, but I know I do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we always try to do that. Okay, right there, Nocturnal Missions here, I always fall into the trap of trying to solve the problem instead of just listening and empathizing, and I think that's, again, normal, and one of those ways that we're trying to solve it is we already have made an assumption or a judgment off of the observation, because now we can get to the solving portion. But if we have to stop, have that pause, and now listen, that can be really difficult, because what if that person is not saying the things that we think? And that can be uncomfortable. Okay, so there's my pre-pillar, and we're going to get to the part about you have to do it together or you can do it one-on-one, and then we should get to the ADHD and anxiety stuff too. So then pillar 1 then is assuming good intentions, or somebody doesn't wake up in the morning and think, how can I hurt my spouse or my partner? So they didn't say, I know what I'll do. I'll tell them that we're going to go do something tonight. I'll wait till later tonight. I'll tell them I'm going to text them, and then I won't.
That'll be so silly.
That'll be so show them, right?
Gosh, yeah.
So that
hopefully people are not doing that.
No, right? Well, and I've even got like a part B to that, where so I like to say assuming good intentions, or there's a reason why somebody does what they do. And that can really be, because sometimes in the couples therapy, if somebody's telling somebody and they're yelling at them, screaming at them, they're calling them bad names, and then the person's like, okay, I know I need to assume good intentions, That's where I'm saying, no.
No, actually.
No, not on that one. But there's a reason why they do that.
Yeah.
But that's because that's their emotional immaturity, and that's the way that they maybe were modeled, that's the way that you are heard. That's the way you have to assume control in the relationship, is by doing that. Then the pillar 2, which can be difficult, is I cannot tell that person what they are doing is wrong or ridiculous. Here's where I pause and I say, even if I do think it's wrong and I do think it's ridiculous. Your thoughts?
It's tough.
It is. Why?
Because if you actually feel like something is wrong or ridiculous, it's hard to just sit back and be like,
yeah,
okay, I'll just wait this one out.
Well, and I think that's because we're so not afraid. We're so used to not being heard that we want to immediately jump in and say, okay, no, that is not what happened.
Yeah.
And that's why I say this framework is so good, because it leads to this pillar 3, which is now I'm going to ask questions before I make comments. Because we might even assume good intentions. We may not say that what they're doing is dumb, but we're going to now jump in and say, okay, well, let me though tell you how hard this has been for me, and you don't even know what I've been doing, and you don't know how hard this has been. And the whole goal of this is to be heard, like somebody said earlier.
That's all anyone wants.
Yeah,
pretty much ever.
Yeah, and then the 4th pillar is that you have to kind of stay present. Don't go into some victim mindset and start going, okay, no, you're right. I'm a horrible boyfriend.
Yeah.
So then, if you do that, and then the other person then kind of offers you that reciprocity, now you're both feeling heard and understood. And it might still not solve it, but it will bring a lot of...
That's the better way to go about it.
Yeah, it really is. So the reason I lay all that stuff out is that ideally that is done with 2 people.
Yeah. But then I feel like you have to do your own work to be able to be in a position to do that, right?
Yeah, and then if the other person isn't interested, you can actually then just say, hey, tell me about your night. And if they start talking, now you get to assume good intentions, not tell them they're wrong. Questions before comments, stay present, and then now you share your well, I feel, or I think statements after. And so in essence, you learned tools to be able to up the relationship game, even if they aren't interested in going to therapy, that sort of thing. Yeah. Okay, Mel, I've been watching you for a while before I got accepted. Okay. Generally inspired. Oh, that's nice.
But she said she just got accepted into grad school for clinical psych, and
no way.
Wondering if you have some tips.
Oh, Mel,
because
first
you
of all,
inspired her.
Oh, that's so nice. For real. First of all, thank you for going into the profession. We need a lot of mental health people, because the more that we get rid of the stigma of mental health being a bad thing to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah,
we need good professionals, not just professionals, but people that feel inspired to the profession. So I think that would be amazing for you to go in there. And then here's one of the tips. One of the first things that I can say as a tip is knowing that almost every class you take in grad school, you're going to all of a sudden think that class has just changed my life, and now I am going to use that tool over and over again.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. That is it. That is my new thing. And so then I also think it's funny, because then I would want to then go out, and then if somebody said, hey, can I ask you a question? You're in grad school, and then it'd be like, yeah, I know all these things now about psychology. You don't really know anything yet. You're learning some tools, and when you start seeing clients, it just gets to be just fascinating to then see all the different things that come into the session. But even more importantly is that concept of counter transference and transference of your reactions to what they're saying. And so let's say that you grew up and you had alcoholic parents, for example, and then people are coming in and they're talking about fighting as a couple, and then they were saying, and we were both wasted, and then all of a sudden you have a moment and you're like, that's not cool. Did you have kids? Did you have kids there? And they're like, yeah, they were fine. They didn't hear anything. But if you didn't have that experience growing up, oh man, that can be hard. Some of that stuff is really difficult. So yeah. And also I remember being told that it will change how you view yourself in relationships, and I just thought, not me. I think I'm pretty good.
I'm fine.
Completely changed everything. It really did.
Grace wants to know, what were those 4 pillars? Is there a name for the framework?
I have made it up. It is the 4 pillars of a connected conversation. So please go to my virtual couch podcast, and then just Google Tony Overbay and 4 pillars. And I have probably 10 or 15 episodes out where I talk about the 4 pillars. And if you reach out to me through my website, go to the contact form at tonyoverbay.com and just ask for a copy of a 4-pillar handout, and I'll send you a Google Doc that will have a handout of the 4 pillars. So I would love that. That would be great. Okay, what are some of the other questions? Let's get into this. Okay, is it possible to do it alone, or do we need support? Let's go up to the parents one. I love mac and cheese. How do I develop a strong sense of self from enmeshed and validating unempathetic parents? I mean, your parents weren't that way, Right?
Yeah, I'll just sit this one out.
Oh no, any thoughts though?
No, I don't even.
Oh.
Truthfully, that's a lot of big words.
Oh.
And I don't really...
So
not grasping it.
So invalidating unempathetic parents, in essence, are parents that are making everything about them. And so this person is going to lack that secure attachment with the parent. So the parent is not going to say, hey, what can I do to help? How are you? Tell me more. What's going on?
Yeah.
And so that's like ideally a secure attachment with the parent is not making it about them. So they're not saying, man, I don't think you should do that, or why did you do that, or that's really bothering me, or, you know, and what parents also do a lot of times is they say, oh, you like that? You like math? Boy, let me tell you how good I was at math as a kid. Actually, which was not me. I was horrible at it.
Same.
Yeah, okay. But so if you are aware, though, that your parents were enmeshed, and enmeshed is like, so differentiated is where one person ends and the other begins. You know, that's why I always do this thing with my hands, codependent and enmeshed, and then you become differentiated, which is, again, where I end and my parents begin. And so then, but in the middle of that's going to be an awful lot of invalidation, and that's going to be really uncomfortable. So then what people will do, the emotionally immature will pressure you to jump back into that enmeshment. So if they're saying things like, you know, if this is the parents, if they're saying, I can't believe you think that, or really, you want to go do that with your life? And if you feel bad, then when you go, no, you're right, I want to listen to you, then I'm jumping back into that enmeshment, and it alleviates the anxiety of the parent, but then it causes you to feel like you are losing your sense of self. And so developing your strong sense of self is just starting to even think about the things that you want to do, the things that you like, and a lot of that can be something that's going on internally in your mind. Talk about you. We've got an episode on The Mind, the Mirror, and Me where you talk about when did you want to be a cosmetologist, and you thought that we wouldn't support it, right?
Yeah.
Talk about that.
I knew it's what I wanted to do.
Since when?
I feel like probably since my sophomore year of high school. I mean,
I
always liked it,
yeah.
but like my sophomore year of high school was when I was, because it started out with makeup. When I got diagnosed with depression, one of my coping things, I would just do my makeup, and that was really, it was something I liked, it was something I enjoyed. I could kind of just zen out and do it.
Yeah.
And so I knew I really liked the beauty industry.
Yeah.
And so then I was like, how can I make a career out of this?
But you didn't say anything about that.
No, I didn't say anything because
that.
Even at my high school, I felt like it was such a stigma of like the dumb beauty school girl.
Is that still there?
I don't know. I think it's not as bad, I would guess. But
now that I know, I mean, you basically become a small business owner. You do well.
Yeah,
you do.
Yeah.
So it seems funny to me.
People don't know that part, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't know. So I assumed then that if that's what I were to do, like I would tell people that was my backup. I would say like maybe when I'm like married and I have kids, then I'll get my license and do that.
Yeah.
But it's what I wanted to do so bad. But then I went to college, like actual college. Anyways. Even though I didn't want to. I was studying to be a teacher.
Yeah, I know you.
Like my nightmare of a job, never gonna happen. But that's what I was studying to be. And then
We'll talk about it. Do you remember? I think we've had funny conversations about this because I was saying, are you sure you want to do that? And you were saying, yeah, I do. But were you just trying to convince yourself? Were you worried that you would disappoint mom or me?
Yeah, 100%.
Were you?
I was like, this seems like a solid thing I can do.
Yeah.
And I like working with kids, so I was like.
Do you?
I do.
Oh, you really do.
I really do. I tutored in high school. I really do.
And
I
then you just spent 5 days
yeah.
watching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That part was real.
Okay.
But the education part.
Man.
And the waking up early and being at the same place every day. I'm not built for like a 9 to 5 situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought I would disappoint you guys if I did that. I thought like.
Even though we were saying, hey,
no, because of my own taking the stigma and making it so real. In my head, then I was like, well, you guys would think I was so stupid if that's what I wanted to do.
To be fair, now that I think about it, though, it wasn't like we we were the parents who would say, hey, here's the way to be happy, here are the things to do, so admittedly, I'm sitting there acting like we knew the whole time, but we were still probably putting out a vibe.
Yeah, a little bit. So I was scared to say, this is what I want to do, even though I had no reason to actually think that, like, you had something against cosmetologists.
Yeah.
But then went to college and hated every second of it, really, and was miserable, and finally got to a breaking point where I was like...
And the place you were at school had a beauty college.
Yeah, like 5 minutes from the road, and I remember calling you, just kind of like crying, and just being like, I can't do it, like, I'm done, I can't do it. This is what I want to do.
And I was trying to
and
channel
I'm so scared, like, I was like, this is what I want to do, don't get mad at me. And then...
My inner Chad from Saturday Night Live. Okay.
Literally. And he was like, okay. And then within a week, I was like at an orientation, and we were getting me signed up and whatever.
And then you did great.
And then
except for the old COVID hit, and then you had to bring your fake hair dummy home and pretend to do that for months. I forgot about that part.
But yeah.
Yeah. Oh, look, Jay, so good you found something you love.
Yeah. If there's something you want to do, go do it.
Yeah.
Seriously. It doesn't matter what other people think. And I think that the people that matter, when they see that you're doing something that you care about and you're passionate about, they will be supportive.
They will.
And if they're not, then screw them. We don't care.
For real. I think what's
hard... I know
hard...
it's hard. That's easier said than done,
I know,
but seriously.
but it's real, though. If
and
somebody...
it makes a difference to do something you love. And you can attest to that, because you did something you hated for so long.
10 years I was in computer software, and I did not even know how miserable I was till I found being a therapist, and now I love it. And it's been 20 years of
like
that.
it's possible to enjoy your job.
Yeah.
I think I've talked to so many clients that, like, they almost didn't even know that was an option.
Lex said, I feel that. That's literally my situation right now. Are you doing makeup full time now?
I'm not.
I actually don't do makeup,
I don't really
right?
do makeup. I have
question.
done, like, I've done a few weddings, like, for my friends. I've done their makeup, but I do hair.
Yeah.
I went more into the hair side. The school I went to offered, like, all the things, and so I learned a little bit about makeup, but I just liked the hair part more.
Okay, but that would be something to explore.
Oh yeah, I love it.
Hales, I lost my dad 6 years ago. Watching you every week with your daughters makes me so happy. It almost like kind of made me cry a little bit. Thank you.
So sorry,
I really,
and I'm glad you're here.
for real. I can't imagine.
And I'm like, I don't even know the
I know
things to say, but I'm glad you're here.
You sometimes like say, don't talk about any of that. Like, I must live forever.
Oh,
Mom
it's
and
not
I
even
both,
funny.
right?
It's not even funny.
Yeah.
I'll actually freak out right now if we start talking about it.
Okay, we won't. Nicholas seemed like a really knowledgeable and passionate therapist. Thank you, Nicholas. I love this so much. Luke, hello, family. Hello, Luke. What's going on? Avi and Mommy, I'm so happy for you. Some people can't get out from under the parental pressure. Boy.
100%. And I didn't for, years, technically.
Yeah.
And it's so hard. Because it is... Your parents are your, like... Even if you don't like your parents very much, which I like my parents, but I think even people that don't like them, your parents are your people, and you're, like, subconsciously, you've made it so you need to be approved, or everything needs to be approved by them, and you need to make them proud, and you need them to love you, and it's just, like, I think it's human nature, because those are those people in your life.
Yeah.
And so it's, like, I think that it's so hard to even think about doing anything that could make you guys upset.
Well, and you nail it. So we get our sense of self from external validation. So if you go right to that, who are we around the most growing up? That is our parents. Yeah. And so we so desperately want to make them happy, because then that is how we feel that we will exist in a sense. And if you want to break it way back down the chain of our good old abandonment and attachment issues, is that we literally come out of the... I always say we come out of the womb. We're these needy creatures. We can hear one crying right out in the door, right there, right? He's adorable, little baby Redding. And then we need everything done for us. And when we cry, when we emote, then our parents jump right there. Hopefully, they do. They take care of us. And then the older that we get and we become more independent, then we're still wired to think though that I need these guys to help me feel like I'm okay. Yeah. But if they're going through their own stuff, or you start to feel like I must be doing something wrong because everybody isn't jumping to my every whim. And at some point, this script flips a little bit. Now it's like, okay, what do I got to do to get these people to notice me? And then that kind of starts to carry through into our adolescence and our adulthood, where I need to do things. I become this human doing. I need to do things to get people to recognize me, to tell me I'm okay. And so then again, who are we normally interacting with? It's our parents. And so then that's kind of wild, right?
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
No, it's just, there's a lot there. It makes sense why, I think it makes sense why there is that pressure and why you don't want to disappoint your parents. But you don't know that you're going to disappoint them. Yeah. So it's not fair to assume that. Yeah.
Can I bring my mom to therapy so you can tell her? Yes. I would, honestly, AV...
Calm down.
We get enough wonderful, amazing comments when I do the TikToks with now Mackie, with Sid, that my true confession, I used to go through and I would take all the comments that were super nice about that, about the parent-child relationship, parent-adult-child relationship, and I've started writing a lot about it because I would like to do some sort of episode, course, that sort of thing, to then help parents recognize. And we did an episode, remember that? On the Mind the Mirror Me on our podcast, we talked about a lady that came on and said, I always say you can have love or control in an adult relationship, not both. And right, and then a lady came in. She wrote us, and she said, "I heard what you said on the show with Mackie," and she said, "I'm not trying to control my kids, and they don't love me." But then, unfortunately, and bless her heart, I know she's hurting. But she said, because we had released the episode out on a Friday, I think I got the email on a Monday, and she said, "I've talked to 3 therapists, and they all say you're wrong." I was like, oh.
I forgot about that.
Remember that? Yeah. So I have an episode on the virtual couch that talks about that it is up to the parent. It really is up to the parent to change the adult-child relationship. And that's difficult, but a parent has to be willing to self-confront, sit with all that discomfort. They really do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you were about to say something.
No, just...
Okay, Grace has sent the form on your site. Excited to learn more. Good. I'll look for that. I will. Yeah, and AV Mommy, bring mom to therapy. Do. Or actually, AV, reach out. Go through to my website, TonyOrbay.com. Send me let me know that this is you, and let's do this. Let me put something. I'll put an episode together or something. Literally email me and tell me what you want your mom to hear, and I will do this. It will be a fun episode. It really will. Okay, Lena on here. I feel like I struggle with identity since I'm not close with my parents and they don't validate me. Hey, Lena, you are so not alone, because a lot of people, I'm so sorry that you're dealing with that too, because that is a struggle, because it is so hard to not feel like it is what's wrong with me. Oh, here we go. The puzzle. Have you ever seen this part?
No.
Do you hear us talk about it?
Yeah, I've never seen it.
Yeah, if you're watching right now, this puzzle comes up, and I have to drag the puzzle piece into place, or else it's going to shut us down. See, look at that. It's pressure. Ready? It's at an hour when it happens.
You did
it. Okay,
wow.
We're back. Where was I going? Struggle with identity and parents. So, it's unfortunate because this concept of being differentiated. Differentiation, really, if you break down the definition, is we're trying to balance our autonomy and independence with developing a connection to another person, and it can seem like a paradox at times. And so there's this guy Murray Bowen, kind of considered the father of differentiation, and he often said that becoming differentiated from the parent is almost like the ultimate goal. And I've worked with a lot of people where they say, but is that really what I want to do if my parent has been so invalidating and been the source of my trauma or my pain? And you've got that book called The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk, where he talks about that the body does keep the score of trauma, of pain, of fear. And so if the more that you're interacting with a parent who has invalidated you, your own central nervous system can go crazy, and you can have that elevated heart rate, and you can feel like, why on earth do I want to do this? Why do I want to interact with these people? And so when I'm working with people, I want to start from a place, what we talked about earlier, acceptance that, I don't right now, because what I need to do is get my emotional baseline high, start to work on my sense of self outside of needing validation from my parent. And the fact that you're aware of that is a great place to start, but I want to acknowledge it's going to be hard. It's going to be unfortunate. It's so much better. Somebody earlier said, are there really people that have what did they say? Are there really people that have a secure attachment with a parent? I've heard of some. I mean, I haven't seen them. Okay, right? Yeah, but
it is possible, but I think it's hard though because it requires
the parent.
Yeah. Which is so, I feel like, disheartening if you don't have that, because you can't force someone.
Yeah.
To put the effort.
Oh, Chazel. Chazel's been here before. Welcome back. My mom can't hear me. She can't find a way to love herself. So how could she see and love me? That, man.
That's tough.
That's so deep right there, because this reflected sense of self. I'm working on an episode of that right now, and it really is that we see ourselves in the relationship with somebody else. So if that person is not responding to me well, then I think, well, then I must be unlovable. Something must be wrong with me. And so you can even flip that from, and it's unfortunate, but a parent could have that same thing where if they're trying to, here we go, if the only stuff that they know is I need to give my I need to give my kid advice because I want them to do what I think that would be best for them, which is a lot of me stuff. And then they get angry or they say, you don't understand or whatever. Then if the parent doesn't have a strong sense of self, then they're seeing that they're seeing the reflection of who that they really think that they are in that relationship with the kid. So if the kid's not saying, you're the best mom, then the parent says, I must be a really bad parent. And instead of them self-confronting and going, okay, what do I need to do? They get angry. And so that is something that really starts to, so then the parent's going to try desperately using the wrong tools to try to get the kid to understand, because then if the kid understands, then the parent will feel better about themselves. And the whole system just kind of gets out of whack there. Nicholas, do you answer DMs? How do we connect? I do. I try. The best way probably would be to go through my website, tonyoverbay.com, and send me something through the contact form. But I do try to check out the DMs when I can. Jake M2X. Oh, good. PsyD or LCSW, which one would you pursue? So I'm a LMFT, licensed marriage and family therapist, an LMFT and an LCSW, licensed clinical social worker, and a licensed professional clinical counselor, LPCC. Those are the ones that you just need a master's degree. So you get your bachelor's 4 years, then you get your master's 2, and then you get roughly around 3,000 hours of experience under a supervisor. Then you take some licensing exams, then you're out on your own. PsyD is a clinical psychologist, so you get that bachelor's degree, you get your master's, and you go 3 more years, and you get your doctorate. So that's a doctorate in psychology. And PsyD...
You're not a doctor, right?
No. People think I am, which is kind of funny. If they call me Dr. Overbay, sometimes I don't have the heart to say, actually, it's not that. But, you know. But PsyD, I mean, it can be more lucrative financially. You can do reports for like psych evals and reports for the court and things like that. You can still see clients like I can, but it's 3 more years of school, and man, I was done.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Hair school was 1 year. I was dying by the end of it. Right?
And for me personally, I got my bachelor's degree when I was 22 or 23. Then I did 8-9 years in the computer software industry. Went back and got my master's at night school, not even knowing I really wanted to see clients. And then I did part-time therapy for another 5 or 6 years after. And then mid to late 30s, just jumped in. And that's wild to think that I'm 54 now. So it's been a long time. When were you born? 2005, 6?
99.
99. I know you were born 99. A few days short of Y2K.
I was due. January 1st. Y2K.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, Chazel nailed it. My job was to be pleasant or hidden, but those two things aren't so different. Amen. And Chazel, that's
deep.
Yeah. Go if you find my Waking Up to Narcissism podcast. I've got one on narcissistic family systems, and I talk about all the different roles. And you've got everything from the enabler to the scapegoat to the golden child, the mascot, telling funny jokes, that sort of thing. And then send in the gifts. Thank you so much, the Queen Sheba. That's our state changed requirements and can work with MHP with my master's in education in 4 years. Oh, see, I love that the more we're opening up to more mental health. There's reciprocity in different states, and I guess I haven't really kept up on some of the requirements. So even the advice I just gave there. Oh, my therapist is I saw this one right here. Where'd it go? Oh, right here, Riddle Nerd. My therapist is a PsyD with a strong focus in DBT. I do not know enough about DBT, and I want to learn. So, Riddle Nerd, if maybe ask your therapist to reach out to me through my website. I need to interview somebody that knows DBT well. I think that'll be a really good episode, because I know that the DBT has some really...
What is DBT? What was it?
Dialectical behavioral therapy. And it's DBT was always known as something that really helped with things like borderline personality disorder. But I mean, and I'm not trying to say that means real, but that, and then it just became more accepted in regular, just kind of therapeutic settings. And I don't know enough about DBT.
Yeah,
but
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, I've heard really good things about it. That's because I don't know it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, Lena, I remember going with my parents as a kid to buy stuff for Y2K. Haha.
Yeah,
oh yeah.
Too.
Do you? No, you weren't even born. You go okay. Yeah, everybody went and bought out all. It's so funny, all the water and firewood and stuff, and it was all because here's your history lesson. Computers, when people invented them or that sort of thing back in the 60s, 70s. That apparently they only put room for 2 digits for the year in all the programs. So it would say, 67, 68, 83. So when it got to 99 and then there wasn't room for like 4 digits, people were like, the world's going to end.
That's it. We can't change it. It's just
and it was pretty funny that night where then all of a sudden it was like, you really were waiting.
Was there any part of you that was like, this is it?
It's been 20, however many years. I was actually in the computer industry at the time because I was in the computer industry from 93 to 2003. So we were sitting there saying, it's fine. So I think I was okay, but I think I did buy a bunch of bottled water.
I remember that happened again though sometime because I remember like 2012 or something.
Oh, well, 2012 was when the world was going to end because I forget, somebody had said it was the Mayan. Yeah. No, the Mayan calendar showed that it was going to end.
I remember that. I remember I was a little scared.
Were you really?
I'm the most anxious kid that's ever lived.
And you would have been like 12
I
or
was
something.
Terrified.
It was like in June of 2012.
And you guys were just like, oh, it's fine. I was like, guys.
Yeah. Meanwhile,
I think we need to take this seriously.
Oh, we had the tents and all that stuff. What state are we in? We're currently in Arizona. I've got to practice in California as well, so I fly back and forth every other week. Strawman, I'm chatting to be a family therapist. This is the key to meeting baddies. I don't know what that means. Okay, let's see.
Okay.
I saw another thing. Okay. Strawman, any advice on banning for... Okay, wait. Let me go back to here. Okay, real nerd right there. Okay. It is so, here's I am Sam. It is so hard to have a relationship with my mother who has bipolar because she has a hard time meeting my emotional needs. That heart goes out to you.
That's hard.
It really does, because when your parents are struggling, there's a pretty amazing book that I've started to read called Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. I highly recommend it. It's one of those where, I don't know, get ready to have all the feels, because I think of most of our parents were pretty emotionally immature because we're barely starting to talk about mental health and feelings and what to do with them. So it makes sense that our parents would be emotionally immature. So it is hard to have that relationship. But one of the things I really recommend, I am Sam, is to really kind of recognize your own inherent worth and goodness, and know that then one of the biggest concepts about differentiation we were talking about earlier is to know that if I am okay, if I can develop this strong sense of self, if I can figure out who I am, then I don't need my parents to tell me I'm okay. Now, what we were talking about earlier, it's wonderful if they do, and if you have parents that are working on their own stuff, which is hard because, again, therapy is finally being talked about more and more over the years. So most likely a parent has had to really be pretty bold or brave to do their own work up to this point. But at some point, recognizing, and this is what's cool about differentiation, everything ends up being an opportunity for self-confrontation and growth. And part of that might be I have to learn to grow without the validation of my parents, because a lot of people continue to go back to the well with their parents and want them to validate their career and validate their... you want to go to your parent, you want to tell them, hey, here's what I'm doing at work, or here's something that I really watched or listened to, and their parent can be invalidating with just a look, a sigh, a disinterested, well, I don't even know what that means, that kind of thing. So one of the keys is to really find your people, your tribe of people that you can connect with and who really want to hear you and see you. So, Legion of Shadows, look at this, guys, let's get his likes up to 25K. It takes 2 minutes and it's free. Nobody's ever done that before. I know, like that is so nice. Yeah, I don't even know what that means if you hit the button a bunch or something, but I really appreciate that. That's the kind I wanted sometimes. Sydney and I will joke before about what it smash the like button or the subscribe thing, or see, look, I say that and you do exactly what Sydney does. She does not like that at all. Old Soul, do you know much about pathological demand avoidance? I don't. My daughter's 5 and autistic. It's heavy. Old Soul, I'll do a little research on that though. I will. I'll keep this up on if we can. Yeah, let me put that up here. I want to know all the things. Pathological demand. Ooh, came right up. Autistic demand avoidance. Autistic people may avoid demands or situations that trigger anxiety or sensitivity. Oh, that makes sense. I'll do a little follow-up on that. Because I am well diagnosed with my ADHD, shocking, and I was interviewing an expert on my Waking Up to Narcissism podcast. She's on TikTok, Jody Carlton, and we were talking about the similarities between narcissistic personality disorder and emotional immaturity in relationships. And as a couples therapist, I will often see people that seem emotionally immature and narcissistic, but then you'll find out that they are autistic. And so then we were talking about that, and I mentioned ADHD, and she said, there's a belief of ADHD being on the autism spectrum. And so I said, bring it on. I can see a little bit of that.
Yeah.
So I want to learn as much as I can. Kara, how would I go about getting properly diagnosed with ADHD? I'm 26. I've never been treated, but I've struggled. Oh man, I feel that one. And I got my diagnosis at 46. So that started by just taking in as much information as I could. I highly recommend the book ADHD 2.0 by authors are Hollowell and Rattay. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of fun seeing all the hearts going up. So thank you. It's making an old man's day or night, wherever you're looking.
I hated that.
Okay. Oh yes, I'm reading it now. ADHD 2.0. That is an amazing book, and even a lot of the online assessment tools are very helpful. So even if you go and take that just to get an idea, but then especially because the medication for ADHD is a Schedule 4 drug, but the medications for ADHD are pretty amazing, and the book ADHD 2.0 has a lot of information about that. Some of the most effective medications, as far as like they're far more efficacious than a placebo. They would drive you crazy though, right? I've always joked with you about trying to Ritalin or something.
Yeah.
That's where the anxiety versus ADHD would come into
different
play.
In my brain.
Okay, and right here, Tiana, here, Mackie, you take this one. Is rapid heartbeat and heart palpitations a sign of anxiety as well as dizziness?
Very much so.
Very much so.
Unfortunately,
Talk
but
about
yeah,
that.
I think the first thing is rapid heartbeat that's it. That is anxiety. Like that is the first thing to happen, which sucks because then when your heart rate goes up, basically everything else in your body is like, okay, so we're gonna panic.
Exactly.
And so then your breathing changes, and then you maybe get lightheaded or dizzy, and then you're trying to calm your heartbeat down, but you can't because you're feeling lightheaded and dizzy, and it's this big cycle of just awful, uncomfortable feelings. But yes, it's definitely a sign of anxiety, and biggest thing is breathing.
Yeah.
My favorite is you breathe in for 4 counts, you hold for 1, and you breathe out for 8. And you just repeat that over and over and over. Like I'll sit there and tap my fingers and just go 1, 2, 3, 4.
That's a good one. That's a good pattern.
And it's supposed to do something. It's supposed to reset.
Yeah, it's like stimulates your vagus nerve or something like that, which is your parasympathetic, like your rest and digest system or something.
Yeah. So that also ice pack on the chest.
Oh yeah. I
That
don't do enough
crazy.
of this stuff.
That one's crazy.
Like have you ever done your hand in ice?
Yeah, or if you hold ice cubes in each hand.
Yeah.
And you let the ice melt, it starts to hurt, and your body focuses on that instead of the panic.
Yeah.
Weighted things on your chest also does something, resets something.
Yeah.
Encourages something. I don't know, but the breathing thing I think is the first thing to try and do.
Oh, here, little Olive. Want to stand? Do you want to let her in? I can let her in. Okay, and then let me tackle this one. Let's see if Olive wants to participate. Hey girl.
Hey girl.
Okay, we have a guest.
Come here.
Okay, this actually is a anxiety technique right here. Pet a dog.
Pet your dogs.
Pet a dog. Okay, let me talk about this though, because I saw Tiana said, "Is it bad to have a rapid heartbeat all day? I'm always in fight or flight mode 24/7." So I do feel bad saying that it is bad, but I would definitely recommend getting that looked at.
Yeah, it's something to take seriously.
It really is. It really is, and I often want to tell people that the time to work on an anxiety or panic attack is when the waters are calm. The problem is that when the waters are calm, then the last thing you want to do is think about your anxiety or your panic. But the breathing. So if you look at the physiology maybe of a panic attack, what Mackie was talking about is so real. If you're worrying about being worried, then that will cause more worry. And when your heart rate starts to elevate, then you produce more cortisol, your stress hormone. And so
it's very chemical.
It is
almost 100% chemical at that point.
At that point, and it's Allie was on talking about midwifery last week, and she talked about this one thing I've been thinking about so much. She called it a cascade of symptoms or something, and I thought about that concept, and so I think we could almost fit that in here, where once you're starting to have a panic attack, it's going to become a cascade of symptoms.
Yeah.
Because once you're worried about being worried, that will cause your heart rate to elevate more. The more your heart rate's elevated, the more cortisol you will produce. And I've told this story before, but having an opportunity to be part of a team of people that are looking at a brain scan of somebody, a functional brain scan, and where they have like the dye in the brain, and did this intentionally, but having the person on a treadmill, and then the more that the person elevated their heart rate through exercise, then you would watch almost like the front part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, these little light switches turn off. The prefrontal cortex is where you have the logic or rational part of your brain, And then your fight or flight response in the back, the amygdala, it's almost like the light switch is turned on. And then at some point, and I've done a couple episodes about this on Waking Up to Narcissism, but you have this amygdala hijack where then you are so caught up in your feelings, thoughts, and emotions, and your heart rate is elevated so high and your cortisol levels have spiked. And so at one point, your prefrontal cortex just shuts down because it says there's no need for logic right now because we must be in fight or flight mode. And so then you were just in full amygdala hijack, and there really isn't a lot you can do there. If you're aware of it, the best thing is, like Mackie's saying, breathe, go outside. That's ideal. You don't want to feel like you're trapped in. Have you ever felt that way? Or if you feel like claustrophobic or trapped in?
Every time I get panicky. And then it's in turn made things like if I'm in a really hot car or if I'm like anything like that, it's like if I get really hot, my body then goes, oh, we're getting hot, so should we raise the heart up a little? And then should we, and it's like when I was fine, everything was fine. But it's like my body associates all the things together. It gets all twisted and spooky.
You know, when I have a client maybe in a session that is starting to get their heart rate elevated, then I really do at times try to just it really model it for them, is where you kind of sit up and you just say, hey, let's just kind of take a breath in through the nose and then out through the mouth. And you really want to try to model that for somebody if you see that that's what somebody's going through. And I like somebody said get a physical with labs before assuming anxiety. Absolutely. And it's interesting when you're in grad school and you're doing presentations and they'll say, okay, what should you do in this situation? You'll get docked down almost every time if you don't say, well, I asked the client when was their last physical. But then when you start practicing, you do forget that at times, you know? So I'm trying to get her eye boogies out. She's got so many of them.
Sick.
I know.
Hi.
So I am Sam. I use really sour candy to snap me out of panic attacks.
I would
can
do
see that.
warheads.
That's so rough.
It's basically anything that can take...
Ice pack, sour candy, okay. Yeah.
Like, the first thing I learned was just to squeeze your toes.
Oh.
Like, I would breathe and squeeze your toes. And that's like a hospital technique that like, if you're in an emergency situation... Yeah. An EMT will tell you, like, okay, squeeze your toes or do that. It's like anything to get your brain...
Not thinking
just
about...
Just a little bit away from thinking about that.
Yeah.
Which is with, like, anything...
I think I've shared this story before, but one of the first trainings I went to, the person said, I have people I tell them to go get the magazine in my waiting room and turn to page 15, and I was still so new. I'm like, oh, what magazine do you got to get and that has page 15 is like your go-to? Yeah. And then I realized, oh, he's just saying... That's
not what it's about.
No, just go
Give
do
them a little
thing,
task. Do
right?
something.
Do something,
yeah. It shocks your senses. It literally does.
I am saying my anxiety legit had me convinced I was dying after I had my daughter. It was the worst. Oh, that breaks my heart, and I know that's hard.
It's so real, and it does feel that way, and it's awful.
Yeah. Lena deficiencies can cause anxiety and depression. Yeah, all kinds of, feeling... It's
so much more chemical than people realize.
Laura, at Riddle Nerd, yes, holding ice to shock my nervous system and ground me is so helpful. Mm-hmm. And what are the long-term effects?
Cold water too.
Face and cold water.
And ice water.
And I've read this before. I don't know if we're about out of time. Maybe I'll follow up with one where there's a treatment plan that I had from a world-renowned brain scan clinic that was working with one of my clients. And they talked about, the ice bath is what people talk about so often. Actually, let me find this. I think this is so helpful. Mackie, kill some time. Sing a song, do a dance.
I wish I could.
Okay.
No, another one. Queen Sheba said, count down by 3 from 100.
Oh, yeah.
Like, again, it's literally any tool that will just get your brain slightly separated from we need to panic.
Yes. Okay, I found this. I think this is so good. This is part of this treatment plan. Learn to control your autonomic arousal and get comfortable with adrenaline in your body and brain. Use tools like an ice bath, cold shower, or simply 30 deep breaths in via the nose, out via the mouth. And here's why. They said use the adrenaline response to start or resume tasks that your brain has lost interest in. These tools have been shown in peer-reviewed research to enhance immune function, raise metabolism, and in some cases increase your threshold for stress and anxiety. And so I know, now that we're in Arizona, you can't get cold in the shower at times. I don't know if you've tried.
Oh, I've tried. I usually try to end my showers with cold water, and you kind of can't.
No, it can be lukewarm, but I know at some... But what ending your shower with a cold shower will do, it really does give you that... like that takes your breath away, but you are okay. So if you can learn to like slow your breathing down through that experience, then that is what they're saying here, is that is starting to increase your threshold for stress and anxiety with that adrenaline response. So you're showing your brain that, oh no, we can do this in that scenario. So then, yeah, it was from the Amen Clinic, Queen Sheba. It was, yeah. Oh yeah, I understand. 5 things you can hear, see, smell also helps. That one's really good. So it's like in that moment, because it's really getting you out of your head, which is like, what can I, okay, Elizabeth, how do you get your brain to stop thinking at night? I take 10 milligrams of melatonin. Elizabeth, this is maybe we'll jump on here and we'll do more of these, right? Sid's gone for 4 or 5 weeks. We're gonna miss her.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, you answered that right away. We are. Sid, we miss you.
Me too.
We'll maybe jump on here middle of the week this week if you're open to that, and we'll tackle some of these right out of the gate. But because the reason I say that is I really think, maybe we'll end with this one tonight, but I really think that as much as we're talking about mental health, which is amazing, that the tools that we're using sometimes aren't the best tools. And one of the things that we hear the most, or I hear the most, are people saying, I know I shouldn't think this thing, or I need to stop thinking this thing. And so really we need to accept the fact that I am thinking this, because this is where, if right now I tell everybody listening, don't think about what?
What do you do? A yellow polar bear on a unicycle.
Just did it. Yeah. So when we're trying to stop thinking about something, our brain has this concept called psychological reactance, which is that instant negative reaction of being told what to do. And that is just, I mean, it's a natural built-in defense mechanism is what it is. It's so that we don't get, the theory there is that we don't get overtaken by a nefarious person. I know I usually say this, let me kind of go back to that. The instant negative reaction, being told what to do, it's there so that we don't get, it's not, so we aren't controlled. I got a whole speech for that one. I'm drawing a blank. Maybe it's too late.
Talking about.
We can't stop our thoughts. We can't say don't think that, but we can say I'm noticing that I'm thinking this. And that's why meditation and mindfulness is really amazing, because it's not about oh, Sid, miss you. This was so good. Sid, we miss you. We do. We really do, Sid. But Sydney, will you like
the dogs? The dogs are so sad.
They are. Yeah, they seem really upset. So Sid, if you can come back and moderate every single time, that would be great. But mindfulness and meditation, I'll just tell you, it's not about stopping thoughts. It's not about not having thoughts or feelings or emotions, but it's about noticing them, and it's about changing the relationship with your thoughts. So in a very small nutshell, just start practicing meditation now, even if it makes no sense whatsoever. Get a good guided meditation, even if it's only 5 minutes, and just do it. And trust me, that's going to be the thing over the long haul that will help you build in that pause. It will help you change the relationship with your thoughts, because if I am thinking and ruminating and worrying, and then all of a sudden I'm thinking about breathing in through my nose and out through my mouth, then I didn't stop my thinking, but I just gave focus to my breath at that point. And the second I stop thinking about my breathing, I may go right back to thinking about all the negative things going on. But then over time, it's a practice, and it's a practice of coming back to the present moment, coming back to what I'm breathing, smelling, feeling, and then eventually your thoughts travel about 2.5 times faster than your logic. This is that visceral or gut reaction. So it's the same thing of where if out of the corner of your eye you see something and you kind of recoil and you don't even know what it is, it's because your emotions are traveling ahead of your logical brain. So you emote, and then your brain says, okay, is this safe? So you're starting to create these new neural pathways where before you're even able to worry about the logical piece, your emotions are already kind of saying, we're okay, we're all right. You find yourself already squaring off, already starting to take a deep breath when you don't even know what that's about. And so that's what you're trying to create, that relationship with your thoughts through meditation and mindfulness. Okay. Mackie, thanks everybody for being here.
Thanks everybody.
Will you come back again?
I guess.
Okay, so we will do this again. What's today? Sunday?
Yeah.
Thanks, Sid. I would sometimes try to do it like Wednesday, Thursday, something like that.
Whatever.
Okay, we'll put it on the live. Thank you so much. I'll hit She Shy real quick. Stuck between LPC, LMFT, and LCSW. What's your opinion? I kind of think maybe LPC, because that's one where all the states are starting to get together and saying your license is good everywhere, and it's really difficult to Like right now, I'm an LMFT, and I'm hoping that other states start to be okay, like have reciprocity with the licenses. Yeah, let me in. All right. Hey, Drew loves me. Says I don't know. He's like, bro, he thinks he's in love. Well, Drew,
So
I'm
tender.
taken. I'm taken. All right. Have an amazing night, week. We will see you
sometime this week.
Thanks, Maggie. Thanks, Sid. Thanks, Wendy.
Bye.
Bye.